Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show. Hopefully you can see me, hopefully you can hear me, because boy, we are working on new tech today. So hopefully it is all working. Got a new computer last week and been having fun and games trying to get it all set up. So Apple, why are you making the M chips harder to work with than the Intel chips you had before? That's my big question for you for this week. So yes, unfortunately my new computer only works with one extra screen, not two like my other one did. And hey, there we go. But minor inconveniences aside, right, got myself a beer, Boundary Road Brewery here. Because of all those technical issues, I'm sorry, I'm not as prepared as I would like to be for this show. But these things happen, don't they? And the show must go on. Break a leg, all those sort of funny sayings from the old stage back in the day. So. It would be good if someone could tell me that they can hear me, because that would be a bit more reassuring in the live chat, please. Don't forget, we're here at 8 p.m. every Tuesday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. You can't comment on Twitter, but you can on Facebook and YouTube. So if you want to comment, please do on that one. What are we talking about this week? Well, I guess the two main topics. That will be the Women's Rugby World Cup final and also the Men's International Rugby that has been going on. So good evening, Simon. Thank you for joining us over there on the old YouTube. Good to have you with me. I think it's going to be a bit of a solo show tonight. So when I go quiet, for those of you listening on the podcast, because yes, you can also listen on the podcast as well, just search for New Zealand Sport Radio. That's probably because I'm taking a drink of my beer. And normally I can do that when other people are talking, but not tonight, because I'm all on my own. So kicking off, and just going to grab something. The game of the weekend was the Rugby World Cup final, wasn't it? Between England and New Zealand, or England, or the Roses and the Black Ferns, and cracking game that it was. So this was after the third, fourth place playoff between Canada and France. And to be honest with you, I didn't watch that one. Canada losing that one 0-36 there for you for that one. So yes, so that was I didn't watch that, but yeah, congratulations. That I guess shows you the difference between the top three. Always with the England, France, and New Zealand. I think the order that they were ranked on the world rankings coming into the tournament. There was a gap between them and everyone else. Canada has done very well. They've had all sorts of issues with their coaching setup, and had reviews around how that all was going, and it also that's something that we've seen in quite a lot of women's sports around the world. We've seen gymnastics, canoeing here in the in New Zealand. I think it's had one, and so a few other sports as well, including New Zealand rugby had that review. So to come out of that and to make it to the third, fourth place playoff, I think Canada have had a cracking tournament, being sort of the most amateur of the four teams to reach the semi-finals. Then we had the final between the Black Ferns and England. In that first half, I've got to say, it looked like England kind of had it under control, leading 19-26 at half time. But it was that was closed up with a try right on the buzzer. So it was 14-28 running up to half time. England's rolling DrivingMaul working exceptionally well with that one, but had picked up that red card for a head clash look. And red cards were a bit of a topic for the weekend. I don't have any complaints with any of them that were given. So just to let you know on that one. So yes, so the she came across, wasn't intentionally high, but head-to-head contact as she ran across, and quite correctly the red card in that one. So you've got to say that England with playing with a player down on well, since after the 18th minute. Did very well. And we're still leading with 10 minutes to go. It's just a try in the last 10 minutes that changed things when New Zealand were also down a player due to a yellow card in that one. But say cracking final, cracking atmosphere at the stadium. Heard lots of I didn't make it to the actual game itself, but heard lots of people say it was one of the most enjoyable games that they have ever been to. Up there, that the atmosphere was much better at Eden Park than when they normally go to, to All Blacks games and things. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think New Zealand crowds generally create a very good atmosphere. They don't have the singing. What's the word I am looking for? The singing tradition that we have in Europe at games, rugby games, but also obviously football games. But they don't have that tradition here in New Zealand. So it's just cheering or clapping. Occasionally, at All Blacks games, you'll have the big screen put up all and then blacks to try and get the crowd to actually cheer, so or make noise. So it is a kind of it's not generally, I say, for me, not the best crowds for atmosphere here in New Zealand. So to people talked about having a good atmosphere was cracking on that one. LB says that he said all games that New Zealand need to compete at the lineouts, and they did at the very end, didn't they? In that last lineout, I think England chose the wrong option there, throwing short. I think they should have thrown over the top of that and trusted their lineout more. I think it was a bit that was a bit of a taking the easy option, or taking what's supposed to be the safer option, not easy option. Sorry, that's the wrong word. Trying to take the safe option of throwing to the front of the lineout. I think that wasn't necessarily best one there. Simon points out that there is a bit of singing at Wellington Phoenix games. Yeah, I think that's the football kind of tradition coming through on that one there. The viewer says, good to see the Women's Rugby World Cup expanding to 16 teams in 2025. Absolutely. So 4 pools of 4, basically the same. No, the men's format now is 4 pools of 5, isn't it? So 20 teams. So still, but it does need to grow on that. So sort of a lot of catching up to do on that side of things. I'm a bit worried that the Black Ferns winning this will paper over some of the structural issues that New Zealand rugby has for women's rugby. In all honesty, the next level down is Super Rugby Aupiki, which was 3 rounds this year. Next year is going to be 3 rounds plus 2 rounds of finals, so 5 weeks, 5 weekends of games. To have that as your stepping stone to international rugby just isn't enough competitive rugby for players to be ready at that level. It's worked this year because they have taken a bunch of players, they've locked them away, well, not away, but they've kept them together all year. Pretty much, they've brought in some of the best coaches in the world, in Wayne Smith as head coach, having coaches like Mike Cron come in to specialise on the scrimmaging, who's an expert there, having Ted in there as well as an assistant or helping out with the coaching, bringing in players like Dan Carter, Kevin Mialamu, I think, has been in there as well, helping out with things like kicking, etc. So they've thrown a lot of resources at this group of ladies to prepare this Rugby World Cup. Also brought in a number of players from the Sevens side as well, who have been professional for longer, to bolster that squad at the end there. I think 3 players from who had been at the Sevens Rugby World Cup were then available at the at this one. Talking of that, actually, there was one little comment that Ruby Tui made during her post-match, which I thought was kind of interesting, when she was being interviewed and talked about how she transitioned, how she committed to the 15s this time, and how she transitioned from 7s to 15s this year. and she did say that she'd been shafted by the Sevens. So I don't know what happened in that bit. And she didn't go on to elaborate. She moved on very quickly after she said it. Obviously caught up in the moment and the atmosphere and all the emotion when she made that comment. But yeah, interesting that she doesn't feel like she was perhaps treated the best way by the Sevens environment there. So I don't know if that story will ever come out, but there you go. I've not read Ruby Tu's book, whether she includes it in there or not. So I hope it doesn't paper over the cracks there, because I think that if New Zealand continue the way they're going, then the gap to England, France will extend, and those two countries will pull away because of the amount of games and the professionalism of their second level, or their level below the international game, is higher and has started to pay dividends, as we've seen at this Rugby World Cup. I know people have said, "Oh, look, the Black Ferns are the best paid players in the world. They get paid more than the England players." Sure, for the international bid, but do they get paid out for their club bid? You got to remember, people's total income is not just from what they get paid by at the international level over for countries overseas. In New Zealand, look, it's all run by New Zealand Rugby. It's all centralised contracts and all that kind of stuff. Over in England, over in France, that is not the case, and so hence. You've got to remember they are getting paid by their clubs as well as getting paid by their countries in that one. The interesting from LB said that South Africa, the Bulls are the first club to start paying their women. So that's the international team is not paid. So well done to the Bulls for stepping up and starting that process over there in South Africa. So yeah, fantastic move by them. I didn't know about that one. Thanks for letting me know about that. And someone said, yeah, look, it's not entirely true that the English women's club game is professional. It's a mixture of semi-professional, amateur, and professional elite contracts. It is a mixture, you're right, but the amount of competitive games they're exposed to is way higher than the level here in New Zealand. You have teams going from playing club rugby, which in New Zealand, which I guess for those overseas, we have club competitions that are provincial around the country, and we'll have Black Ferns playing in the Auckland Club Rugby competition. That I'd say is a regional competition. It's not even a national competition. Then they've got the Farah Palmer Cup, which is your national competition. But as you'll know from that's the equivalent of the NPC or Bunnings NPC, what you might have heard of previously has been called the Midas 10 Cup. So that isn't considered. We would never take someone from Midas 10 and put them into an international environment. Bunnings NPC and put them into an international environment. So that is something that something that I think is where that gap will be. Someone recommends the Amazon Prime documentary "No Woman, No Try," which is about the English women's club competition. So I'll see if I can dig that one out. I don't have Amazon Prime myself. So there you go. I say absolute cracking game. I think one thing that this Rugby World Cup has shown is that the women's games are just as just as entertaining as the men's games. Now, does that mean that every single game is as entertaining as a Rugby World Cup final? No, it doesn't. But that game was as entertaining as on par with just about any game ever. So that was a very very high quality and very good game. And as I say, that's what this one has shown. Now, a lot of people are talking about how the Phil Eden Park, fantastic. It is fantastic, but don't expect that to happen for every women's game, right? Let's be clear here. It is a Rugby World Cup final. Rugby World Cup finals tend to get big crowds, or tournament finals get big crowds. You can get some big crowds for the Bunnings NPC finals. Depending on where it is, it doesn't mean you can get that for your normal games. You still get 2 men and a dog turning up to those ones. So again, whilst it's proven that there is an appetite for women's rugby, we're going to see what that appetite, how that, see whether the momentum that's come from this competition can be gathered and maintained for the domestic competition on that one. One of the the things I have seen is that the Chiefs have been announcing signings to their women's team, which is great to see. So they are putting their media machine, which is very small, it's only one person. Calling it machines a bit look a bit perhaps a bit over the top, but you can see that they are starting to put together, actually posting out about their women's team and their rugby team outside of the season, which is something that is very important to maintain and grow that audience, or to be able to try and keep that interest. I say you're not going to get 45,000 crowds to Super Rugby Alpaca games. If you market it extremely well, you might do it for a final, but that's still, I would be surprised if you did. And I just don't see that there is the will there from New Zealand Rugby to put the effort in behind it. Now, some people say, look, they've got to earn their own sponsors, they've got to earn their pay and all this kind of stuff. Fine, I'm not saying that they should be getting equal pay to the All Blacks. The All Blacks bring in more money, sponsorship money, and therefore you need to spend that to keep it up there. But you do have to invest to get a return. You're not going to get a return just from, so there does need to be an investment at this point to give them the structures, to give the support per team, to give them the games, to give them the pathways to enable them to enable there to be a support and a fan base for it, and that's where it needs to be. Nocturne Rice's Black Ferns were able to spin the ball wide and score with their red card, feeling of the early professional rugby of the men's back in the 90s. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's been said is look as to how enjoyable the style of rugby and enjoyable the way that people were playing, or the women were playing in these games, and that would we lose that with professionalism? Well, maybe we would, maybe we won't. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, one of the things I did tweet out during the first half of that rugby game was, "Wow, where are the scrums? How am I supposed to go and get myself another beer?" The game, the amount of ball in time would be interesting to see. There's definitely I've seen various stats saying that it's higher across the tournament than the average men games. So that was that it makes it more entertaining that way, rather than stoppage after stoppage. And he also has great contrast of style. Look, the England's rolling maul was we had Boa, who was a world rugby coaching mentor, and somebody was saying, look, that's some of the best mauling technique he's seen ever. So it's a crack. They are the Red Roses were very, very good in that aspect of the game. So look, we'll see if New Zealand Rugby can ride this wave and try and continue the momentum in the women's game. As I say, I'm not very enthusiastic. I'm not very optimistic about that happening. I do, but we'll have to wait and see how that all pans out. So that's it on the women's side of things. My 18-minute monologue about that. So it's time for a quick drink of beer, and to move on and have a chat about the men's internationals from the weekend. A picture that I've put out, and I put out there on our Facebook page, is the one that I'm showing now. So for those of you on the podcast, what I've got here is a list of all of the games and the world rankings, and then the winning margins of it. So some thoughts from the weekend was that 4 out of the 12 games were won by the lower ranked country. Italy beating Australia, Samoa beating Georgia, but they were 13th and 14th ranking going into the weekend. Romania losing to Uruguay again, 17th and 18th in the tables. Those two you'd say were coin flips, but the other kind of upset was Wales beating Argentina 9-6. One that I'll be honest, I got a free I got a bonus bet via the TAB this weekend, because I've not been putting many bets on, so they're trying to encourage me back, and so I put that on to Wales to win that game, because I think Argentina backing up the performance was they beat the All Blacks this year, but their performance the following weekend definitely dropped off and wasn't as great. After Argentina beat England last weekend, I just wasn't convinced they'll be able to put that performance, put another performance in back to back, and hence that's why I backed Wales there. So there's so it does show that actually, even though we probably do malign the world rankings and say what's the point of them and do they really mean anything, it does go to show that they're pretty accurate, or give you a pretty good idea as to who are the better teams in week one. For example, again, for those of you who are on screen, you can see that 3 out of the 11 games were won by the lower ranked team. And again, one of those was a Spain versus Tonga, which is 15th and 16th in the world. So again, a coin flip one there. But so again, are the world rankings 100% accurate? No, they're not. But it does give you an idea, especially for those people who aren't necessarily keeping their eye on the game the whole time, of a good idea of the relative strengths of the different teams. On that one, I mean, Simon points out that Romania lost the match in the 81st minute, and then he also they also lost by only by 5 points. So again, a sort of losing bonus point one there in that one. And if we look at this, we had Italy versus Australia was a 1 point game, as was Georgia Samoa. Then we also had Wales Argentina was only 7 points, France South Africa 4, and Romania Uruguay 5. So 5 of the games were within one score at the moment, or in this one. So again, a bunch of competitive games. Sure, there were a couple of blowouts: Portugal versus Kenya, for example, and the USA versus Hong Kong. Both of those in the World Cup repechage with the 2 biggest margins in that one. And it's going to be cracking to see the USA versus Portugal in the final round of the repechage. Kenya and Hong Kong having both lost both their games, going to their final game with just pride on the line, whereas Portugal and the USA will be playing off for that final place at the Rugby World Cup 2023 in France, the Men's Rugby World Cup, that is. So yes, in some ways that's probably the biggest game of the weekend coming up, is that one between those 2 teams, because of what's on the line for that one. So cracking game from both of those. As has been pointed out, Portugal currently do head up the table in that repechage, but it's purely on points difference. Portugal, two games, 2 wins, plus 113 points difference, whereas the USA 2 wins plus 96 points on that one. So again, both of them, that's only after 2 games. So both of them won their games by kind of like 50 odd plus in both of them. Hong Kong minus 70 and Kenya minus 139 would suggest that Hong Kong go into that final game, third, fourth playoff kind of thing, as a slight as favourites into that one. But so yeah, Portugal USA will be an interesting one. Look, I think it's very important for the game in the USA for them to be at the Rugby World Cup. All that effort and investment that's gone into Major League Rugby. Looks it's the first time they've had a fully professional squad for the USA men's, and for them to what's the word I'm looking for? For them to not make the Rugby World Cup, I think will be enormously damaging to the game over there. And obviously, it's one of it's the biggest growth sort of country at the moment when you think about the market and financial, etc. So it'll be. So it's really important for the USA to do that. Portugal, on the flip side, again, important for the game in Portugal, but I don't think we can. I don't expect to see Portugal putting together a fully professional league, etc., anytime soon. So we'll have to wait and see how that one all pans out. But yeah, good luck to both teams, and obviously may the best team win of the day. All of that kind of wonderful stuff. Let the rugby be the winner. So I watched the France versus South Africa one. I also got up and watched Scotland versus New Zealand. I did say I would try and watch Italy versus Australia because of that result there, but sorry, I didn't. And there's been a lot of flack on social media for Dave Rennie in that one, with kind of with other people talking about the fact that look, is it the system or is it the coach that's causing the problems in Australia? I don't think the system is helping Dave Rennie at all. And I think stability of the game of the Super Rugby sort of level at the game in Australia was needed. Obviously, we've had the force coming in and out. Question marks whether the Rebels would still exist, what's the format of the competition, all that kind of stuff. And then an NPC-like level beneath that would also be useful. Simon has pointed out that Portugal be good in the European Super Cup, and they have players in the French league. Yes, but I'm just saying I'm expanding within Portugal in that way. I do expect to more players in other professional leagues, particularly as you say the French top 14 and Pro D2 as well. The reviewer talks about Bulgaria and Algeria. Virtually no one knows when or who they play, and yet they've jumped 20 places in 2 years. So there's lots of adjustments that could be made. So look, we need more games, more international games for it to be a true reflection of where everyone really stands. There is that, but what was I going to say? We're already at sort of player welfare issue overload. Adding more international games, I think there's room for that one there at all. Dr. Wright says he felt Wallabies at risk to Italy, choosing a second 15 before the game. Yes, so a lot of changes for the previous week. You've got to remember, though, that Australia have got Ireland and Wales coming up. They've still got 2 more games. Most other teams have only got 1 more game at the end of, for the Southern Hemisphere teams at the end of their season. And the Wallabies, players cannot play every single game. They do need it to take some rests. And with the Wallabies already having had 2 games from memory in this window, because they played, didn't they play a game, a sort of pre-window game from memory? Let me have a quick bring up the Wallabies fixtures. They played Scotland on the 30th of October, then France, then Italy, then Ireland, then Wales. So they've been playing 5 games on the bounce, which no other team I don't think any other team is doing that. The All Blacks 4 on the bounce with that Japan game. South Africa 4 on the bounce because they're playing, is it England? I think it is, after outside the window in that in 2 weekends time. So look, they're playing the most games of anybody during this window. This clearly the Italy game, when you got Scotland, France, Ireland, and Wales, would be considered the easiest or the game. So that's when you're going to have to rest players at some point. I don't think that people have appreciated that, and they're saying, "Oh, you've got to play the best team every week." You can't do that 5 weeks on the bounce on that one. So not a cracking one there. So not a cracking situation for Rennie there. We'll have to see how that one goes. Read something about him trying to sort of say back me or sack me kind of thing. Give him a contract beyond the Rugby World Cup. I'm not sure about that one. But hey, generally giving guys contracts before Rugby World Cup doesn't tend to sort of work out very well. So I'm not sure about whether you'd want to do that with Dave Rennie. LB reckons the Box on the right track, having lost number 1 and 2 in the world by only 1 score. Look, I mean, there's a good reason why the Springboks are in the top 4 in the world and top 3 coming into, or in 3rd place coming into this window of games. They're a cracking team. They're World Cup champions. They're all. That's unsurprising that they're still up there around that one. As well around Italy, the current head coach is doing some real good work using their backs, and a lot of that's Conor O'Shea. A real shame that I think he left. I think he was putting a lot of good groundwork in there in Italy on that one. The reviewer, will Springboks rest players for Italy? We'll have a look forward to the games that are coming up later to talk about that kind of one. Good points here about the midweek games being played by some of the by the South African teams, and that's probably where the New Zealand 15 should have been done, is playing midweek games. Would have been cool rather than clashing and having games at the same time as the All Blacks. But hey, well, that's another one, isn't it, to talk about but we'll probably leave that one there. So yes, France versus South Africa. Look, cracking game. I enjoyed watching this one. Look, South Africa have been criticised a lot about the speed of their playing style. Let's be honest. But I thought that this game, the pace of the game was very good. The game wasn't slowed down lots and lots. So to me, look, credit where it's due. I think France and South Africa played this game very well on that one. Look, there were 2 red cards in this one. Both of them I'm happy with. Look, Peter Steph-Toy was saying, look, he wasn't intentionally trying to headbutt the player. No, he wasn't. I get that, but I pointed out. So I put on Twitter that players who are about how they're coached, we're going to end up with these. And someone said, "Oh, you can't say he was coached to headbutt." No, he wasn't coached to headbutt that. Sure, there was a bit of a push as well. But look, if we're going to have players diving in straight off their feet at rucks, this isn't about South Africa. This is about all teams and how all coaches are coaching the breakdown. Then we are going to get head clashes like this, and that is going to is extremely dangerous. And we've got to think about some players' welfare about this. And those sort of things have to be carded. But I don't think we're going to get a change of behaviour unless we actually change how we referee the breakdown. It doesn't have to. We don't need law changes in there. We just need to referee the actual laws that are there. So, for example, players should not be allowed to put their shoulders below their hips. And that would pretty much remove or would definitely restrict the amount of jackling from the game very quickly, and also would be a lot less players putting their bodies into those dangerous situations. Next up, and players. If we reduce the amount of jackling, we reduce the amount of the urgency for players to quite throw themselves in there and do the clear out. Secondly, get rid of the clear out. You're not supposed to come in and tackle a player. You're supposed to come in and bind and push, is what's supposed to happen. The clear out is a relatively modern thing, and isn't how a ruck is supposed to, how a ruck was kind of, and how the laws for rucking were written in the first place. You're supposed to stay on your feet, and you're supposed to push over the ball. So look, that to me, if those two things, players have to stay on their feet, and players can't put their shoulders below their hips. And I think we change what the ruck is massively and make it a lot safer for everybody. People have talked about, oh yeah, you should enforce binding. You have to bind someone before you can join a ruck and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if that is possible, but it would create space around the rest of the part of the pitch, wouldn't it, if you had to get more people down there for that one. So I do think that the ruck does need to be cleaned up, and the way that all top level coaches pretty much are coaching it, all the way it looks from the outside anyway, is basically that we're going to end up with these situations, and player welfare isn't a consideration for that one. LB says that the Box played down a man down for 90% of the game, came within a score. Very good showing by the Box. It's a cracking game, but you've got to remember that France were also down a player for quite a long time as well. So, and they also lost players to injuries. I think France will also be happy with this, not too upset with the fact that it's only a 1-score win for them on that one. Nocturnal Rights goes, okay, no card about the Colby getting hit in the head by Dupont's head. And Colby, I'm not sure which one you're referring to there, but I think the Colby one again. Look, the Dupont one again. Dupont came from a distance. Look, he was running in. Initially, I thought he was just standing there, which I thought it's hard to jump here, but no, he did run across. And he's got to understand that if you're trying to catch in a crowd you've got to get in the air. If you don't get in the air, someone else will, and you're going to be putting them in dangerous situations. So yeah, happy with the red card for Dupont. A lot of people saying, look, are we refereeing the outcome, not the intent? Absolutely, we are. That's how the laws are written. The laws are written to punish by outcome, not by intent. Intent is difficult to judge. So yes, so if the player does a 360 and lands on their feet, that's absolutely fine. You're going to get a penalty and you're not going to get a card. If they only rotate 180 and land on their head, you get a red card for the exact same action. Similarly, in the clear out, if Peter Toy does that and doesn't hit the head, he doesn't get a card. So both of them were ruled on outcome, not on intent, and that's how the laws are written, folks, at the moment. So it's not the action. It's a bit like if you swing a punch. If you swing a punch and you miss, you're just going to get told off. If you swing a punch and connect and punch someone in the head, it's a red card. So all these things are outcome driven. Dupont stopped and Colby jumped towards him. Well, Colby jumped to catch the ball. Yes, we are encouraging jumps and leaping. So look, I'm happy with all the reds, and yes, the way the rules are written and done is via outcome. I'm going to very, very briefly talk about Razzie, and I guess, and also other people who've been posting things. Look, South Africa is not the only team that does it, or South African fans are not the only team that does it. All of the fans do. Razzie's the only sort of director of rugby or head coach that does get involved in this on social media, and he kind of is leading the way and legitimizing it. And hence, whenever the Springboks lose, there is this minute video analysis done to find every call that went against them, but no calls that went for them. Look, say every team, supporters of every team do it to a certain degree. It's just that at the moment they're doing it more than anyone else. Look, I think it's when after every single game, where most of the discourse on social media is about is negative and moaning about the referee. That's not good for the sport. One of the things we've discussed previously is that, especially talking about the way that Fox covered rugby in Australia, was they were always moaning and complaining about Super Rugby, and funnily enough, the audience dropped. And now that we've got, now it's moved over to Stan Sport, where they're all positive and trying to talk about the positives of the games, not the negatives. Funny enough, the more people are watching it because they want to watch something positive and want to watch good stuff. So to me, one of the big problems with the sport is one of the big problems the sport has at the moment is the discourse on media, social media, and it's done by mainstream outlets as well as by actual fans, and even by sort of Rugby Pass, which is World Rugby owned, on that one. It's we need to that needs to be that needs to be we need to try and change that, because it's just going to drive the sport down and kill the sport if we're not talking about it. Simon said, yes, Sunsport does have some negativity with Tristan Harrison. Yes, but it's not total negativity. You can point out things that have gone wrong, but where if 90% of what you're talking about is negative, then that's bad. LB, the NFL and NBA have fired poor refs. I've got no problem with holding them to account. Yes, there's holding them to account, and then there's moaning about every single call they miss. There's two different things. There's two different levels. There's two different things there. We've gone past holding referees to account into microanalysis of they're humans. They're running around. They're trying to spot things. And I'm sorry, but things will get missed. Rugby's laws are way too complex to actually referee. The administrators have put referees in a situation where they cannot referee the game, in my opinion, and get things right. There's just too much going on, and they're told to ignore things to let the game flow, because they could blow something at every single breakdown. With that, what that means is when players and coaches know things are going to get ignored to let the game flow, well, they're just going to push the boundaries, and so we're going to get more and more illegal stuff, and therefore there will be illegal stuff at every breakdown you can pick out if you want to. But so increasing the number of referees, as been suggested in the live chat there, will not help. As I say, what they're told to miss things, they're told to not ping things that do not impact play. Or then they've got to make a judgment call on that. So we've got to what we need to, as a sport, understand is that you cannot. The game is impossible to referee. There will be missed calls, and we just got to live with that, because over the balance of time, it will even out across them. Either that, or we scrap the rule book and start again, folks, and simplify the rules, which I think we should actually do, to try and make it easier and possible to referee. That's the last thing to say about that, and move on now. Scotland, New Zealand. Wow, this game kicked off with New Zealand, what was it, 14-0 in the first 10 minutes, zoomed out to a lead, and it looked like, wow, this is going to be an absolute drubbing for Scotland. But they bounced back, and suddenly it's 14-all after 16 minutes. You think, wow, this is going to be a very, very high-scoring game. Well, no, because 28 points scored in that first bit, in that first sort of 16 minutes, with only 54 points scored in total. So more than half the points scored in the first 16 minutes of that one. Anton Leonard-Brown getting that yellow card, absolutely happy with that. Was clearly a penalty try. People say, oh, the ball was bouncing away from him. Yeah, yes, it wasn't bouncing out. He would have been able to change direction and get it down. I'm more than happy he would have done. People saying, is Anton Leonard-Brown off the pace? Of course he is. He's only played his sort of second game back or something from injury, or 2 or 3 games back. I mean, he's hardly played any rugby this year. He is going to be off the pace. Dane McKenzie was off the pace after his big injury layoff, and took about a season to get back to where he is now. Yes, Anton Leonard-Brown is off the pace. He hasn't had much game. He's got to trust his body. He's got to get back up to speed with playing rugby. So whilst people are saying, look, this must be Geordie and Rico as the 12-13, we're going to stick with that. Now, look, you can't do that for 2 reasons. One, all players can't play every single game, and 2, what if one of them gets injured? You've got other players experience in there as well. So I do think Geordie is the best 12 at the moment for the All Blacks that they've got available to them. So so those pieces. Scotland leading 17-14 at half time, and basically won the game between the 10th and the 70th minute. Unfortunately, or 76th or 65th minute. Unfortunately for them, the benches told, and the two converted tries in the last 13 minutes was enough to see New Zealand home, with Scott Barrett scoring one and Mark Talia having a very good debut. You got to say, particularly on attack. Anyway, I know a few people were concerned about his tackling and defence, but on attack there, had a cracking game with 2 tries. As LB says, 55 minutes of no score by the All Blacks. When have we heard of that? That's extremely rare, especially against Scotland. There. So cracking game for Scotland, but just could not take their chances in that, or enough of their chances, should I say, in that 55 minutes. They had more opportunities there to score and didn't take them. Alternative game got better when for the All Blacks when Frizzell and TJ came on. Kiriwani's still not good enough on the defensive side of the games. I think Kiriwani blows hot and cold. I mean, he had a cracking debut, for example. It seems to go well last year, but not going so well this year. That's in a black jersey, that is. I don't think he is the answer at 6. That is for sure. So, look, for Steve Hansen to complain about the commentary and say that it was disrespectful and what words did he say? I found listening to the commentators last night a disgrace from the way they were talking about players and the game. In the end, I just turned off and watched in silence. You know what? Hansen basically, if you're not saying what he likes and what he wants, you're a disgrace. Sorry, but Hansen has a very tunnel vision and very centralized view of the world. Unfortunately, you've heard him talk about players being disrespectful of moving on and all that kind of stuff. Look, if it's not doing what he thinks according to what he wants, then you're not in a good place. So I don't look. Not a fan of what Steve Hansen's mutterings along this sort of line, and goes, this wouldn't happen in the women's game. We've lost our way in the men's game when it comes to how we watch it and commentate on it. Maybe we've lost the way on how we play it and how we interact with our fans and make ourselves available, Stephen. I think you've lost the way and you've led the way down the wrong path. I don't think it's just you, but I think the men's game as a whole has done that. So, ultimately, Hansen, great coach in his day, but I'm fed up with what he did to the domestic game. I'm fed up with how he talks. Look, there's a number of good coaches around who might not be the people you want to have a beer with. Steve Hansen, Razzie, two good coaches who I not necessarily want to have a beer with. He's not alone in that one. So that's the games from last week. Let's have a quick look forward to this weekend. Harlequins versus Barbarians on Friday night. Great to see Barbarians out there playing. We've talked already about the Rugby World Cup qualifiers with Hong Kong playing Kenya and the USA playing Portugal. Saturday morning, 2 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. For those games. Looking at the other games, Leinster playing Chile. Great to see a tier 2 team getting an opportunity like that. And again, why couldn't that club game be midweek? I think it would have been a better idea, but there you go. Give probably turnaround time for Chile. Actually, to be fair, but Leinster, good to with the URC stopping during these windows. That gives the opportunity for these clubs or provincial sides to play against tier 2 teams. Tonga take on Uruguay. We obviously expect Tonga to win that one, but two teams obviously heading towards the Rugby World Cup, so good experience for both of those. Italy take on South Africa. Now, there was some questions earlier about will South Africa rest players for this one. Just in the same way the Wallabies did. Look, South Africa still got another game to go after that as well. The difference between the Wallabies and the Springboks is that some great things in the live chat from Simon about availability of games. By the way, folks, if you're which I'll pop up on screen, is that South Africa's still got to play England as well after Italy. So I do think they will rest some players. But I think the other point they've got is that they will lose a bunch of their European-based players who play in the Aviva Premiership and also the Pro 14 for that England game. So they'll have all their players available. So expect the South African-based players to get rested more than the European-based players in that one. Is my guess. Wales v Georgia, that's has home win written all over it. Canada versus Namibia, that's an important game for Namibia. Obviously, Canada not making the Rugby World Cup, but Namibia are, so important for them. French Barbarians versus Fiji. Look, that French Barbarians side is pretty strong quite often, so that will be a cracking game. Romania, Samoa, that should be a decent game as well. Scotland, Argentina. look, Scotland coming off the back of that good performance, poor result against the All Blacks. Argentina disappointing against Wales. You're going to say after what they did to England. So good for I expect a bounce back for Argentina for that one. England versus New Zealand at 6:30 a.m. our time. Now, and that is on Sunday morning. I'm going to have to juggle that. I think I can just about watch that one because I'm going to. One of the things I do is I sell toy wooden stables, folks. So search for Kia Play and toy wooden stables if you live in New Zealand. We only ship to New Zealand, I'm afraid. But I will be at the Waihi AMP show, showing those off on Saturday, and the Athenry Homestead Christmas Market on Sunday, selling my stables and my wooden toy stables and farm buildings. So have to see about whether I'll be able to sort of how knackered I will be for that, whether I can juggle that. Ireland versus Australia at 9 a.m. Normally it would be a great one to watch Sunday morning. I say I will be busy then, but that should be a cracker of a game. Obviously, how will the Wallabies respond to the negative criticism they've had in the press around their coach? And obviously Ireland looking to cement that number one place in the world. Come Monday morning, France versus Japan, 2 a.m. And Bath versus the Barbarians at 3 a.m. So the Barbarians 2 games for the weekend after having played the Harlequins on the Friday. So 2 obviously very different teams there. I'll be honest, I won't be getting up for France versus Japan. Japan not having had a great or not having a great time of it, losing to England 52-13 last weekend. And having had the All Blacks, England and France, that's a tough November window for them there with that. So that rounds up the weekend. To me, obviously, England and New Zealand is probably the choice game of those personally. But a couple of other decent games, a couple of other important games as well, especially that USA versus Portugal one in there. Right then, folks, that's one more thing before we finish off, and that World Rugby have announced the nominees for their annual awards, and there has been a bit of controversy about that already. Especially around the player nominations with Lukhanyo Am, Anton Dupont, Johnny Sexton, and Josh van der Fleer being the 4 players nominated. Now, the nominations seem to range between 4 and 6 players over the years. So I don't know if they were allowed to nominate more, whether it was restricted to 4. All those players coming from the 3 top teams heading into the November internationals. France and South Africa have switched. New Zealand and South Africa have switched round since then. They're on that one. Obviously, Arnie Severe hasn't been selected for that one. That's been where the most of the whinging has come from. But look, having seen the years that those 3, and Lukhanyo Am, a lot of people saying, look, it was a definite choice. Having seen the year that Ireland are having, you've got to say that with their sort of winning that first ever tour in New Zealand, being world number 1 ranked side, it's not surprising 2 of their players there. A few people questioning what's Anton Dupont in there. Now look, and people saying, look, it's Northern Hemisphere centric. Well, when your top 2 teams are Northern Hemisphere or European-based teams, you expect them it to be a Northern Hemisphere weighted in that one there. So look, I've got no problems with these nominations per se. Whether it's Anton Dupont or someone else from France is open to a bit of debate, I guess. I did see someone saying, look, he shouldn't be in there, especially having got a red card in the 48 hours ago. Yes, but look, I don't from memory. This runs from like 1st November to 31st of October. I don't think these November games count towards the player of the year. It's not actually the calendar year. So it is only international games. It's not your domestic games either. So I don't think you can count what's happened in these last games around this one. LB says, well, how about Elspeth or Sevilla not being in there? Look, I'm not, if they were, I wouldn't be too upset, but I'm not upset them not being in there either. I think Lucania Am's probably the standout. Springboks, I'm happy he's there. And as I say, not surprised to see 2 players in there for Ireland. Obviously, Van der Fleer has been wonderful for Ireland, and Johnny Sexton is perhaps the most important player in the world for any team, because the drop off to him to Ireland's second choice, number 10, is drastic. Whereas, I'm not sure any other single player has got, or any such good player has got such a weak backup, as it were. So look, if they were there, fine, but I'm not upset that they're not there either. As I say, could there have been 6 players nominated as there have been in the past? Yeah, why not? But look, they've gone with 4. I think it's probably already been voted on as well. I think this is from, and that because obviously they get announced in like a week or so's time. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's already been all voted on anyway. Cracking one there. Not trying to. I hear a rumor that the number of subs will drop after the Rugby World Cup. If it does, that'd be great. I think that a couple of things here. We've seen with the 6-2 bench that we don't need to have 3 backs. So why not get rid of reduce the bench by 1 because of that? Also, with the number of hybrid lock loosies, again, why not get rid of another one? Get rid of one of those as well. So I'd happy to remove 2 players from the bench. Insist that you still have to have 3 front row players, so the 2 props and the hooker, because we don't want to go down to golden ollies or uncontested scrums, and then have 1 other forward and then 2 backs. So go down to 6 rather than 8. Not sure it's my idea of 8 subs, only use 4. Again, like that idea. The point of no matter what is all good and well until you talk about forwards again. I'll talk about the front row, and there'll be lots of moaning about being reduced and going down to uncontested scrums. So I don't think that would work for that one. LB seems to go against the Boks and French. They're not the only ones to have used 6-2 benches. They're the ones that have used it most frequently recently, admittedly. But I think 2 things. One around sort of player welfare is that having sort of fresh players against tied players isn't necessarily good from a player welfare point of view. Also, if you make players make more players have to play 80 minutes, then they will spend more time training on cardiovascular or aerobic training rather than strength training. So we're not going to have so players would hopefully come down in size a little bit and reduce the power of the collisions and hopefully reduce the number of injuries, is my kind of thoughts on this one. This isn't an anti-Boks or anti-French kind of approach. It's one thing I've thought about. I've been backing for quite a while now on that one. So to me, that is that's why I would like to reduce the bench. Also, on that note, it's easier on the community game if it's 21 players rather than 22. You can get you can basically get more. It's easier to put a team together, for example. Actually, on the community game level, I would have it as rolling subs as well, so that everyone gets plenty of game time rather than someone turning up a seat on the bench for 75 minutes. But anyway, that's a different topic entirely. So for me, happy with reducing the subs bench our post Rugby World Cup I think I say the 6-2 split has shown we don't need 2 players in that on that bench, in my opinion, and would make I say hopefully it would reduce the size of players and therefore reduce the injuries. So if I just cut out there, folks, press the wrong button. So thank you everyone for joining me. Don't forget you can become a supporter of New Zealand Sport Radio over at patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio. Helps me with all of the kit and stuff that I need, and software that I need for to do all of this. So would really appreciate your help if you can afford to do so. And I hope you all stay safe and enjoy the next weekend's rugby. Catch you later.